So let's talk about something incredible that's happening inside your body right at this very moment. It's a fundamental process, this metabolic switch that decides whether you're storing energy from the food you eat or burning it for fuel. We're going to break down these two states, the fed state and the fasting state, to really get a handle on the basic rhythm of how you operate every single day. You know that feeling, right? You have a good meal, you feel great, full of energy, and then, just a few hours later, you're feeling hungry again. Well, that whole cycle isn't random at all. It's actually a beautifully orchestrated process, all guided by your body's internal energy management system. The best way to think about it is like this. Your body has a master metabolic switch, and this switch is constantly flipping back and forth, all day long. In one position, it's telling your body to build up and store energy. In the other, it's telling it to break down those stores and use them for fuel. Now, these two states have some fancy scientific names. The fed state is called anabolic, which literally just means building up. And the fasting state is catabolic, which means, you guessed it, breaking down. It's this constant, elegant cycle of construction and deconstruction that keeps you running smoothly. All right, so let's dive into that first state. What happens right after you eat? This is the fed state. And its number one job is to grab all that valuable energy and all those building blocks from your meal and basically save them for a rainy day. For the first, say 2 to 4 hours after you've eaten, your body enters what's called the absorptive state. Your bloodstream is now flooded with all the good stuff, glucose, amino acids, fats. And the main mission is crystal clear. Do not let any of this precious fuel go to waste. And who's running the show here? Well, it comes down to two key hormones. After a meal, your insulin levels rise. You can think of insulin as the storage manager. It's the one going around telling all your cells to open their doors and start storing all this incoming fuel. Its counterpart, glucagon, does the exact opposite, but we'll get to him in a minute. For now, insulin is the boss. So how does this storage actually happen? Well, as all these nutrients flood your system, insulin gives the green light. Your liver and your muscles grab onto glucose and package it up into something called glycogen. That's your short-term, easy-access energy reserve. And then, any extra energy that's left over, that gets converted into fat for long-term storage. It's an incredibly efficient system. Okay, but what happens when the fuel from your last meal starts to run out? Your body doesn't panic? Nope. It just calmly flips that metabolic switch. So let's shift gears and look at the fasting state and see how your body starts tapping into its reserves. Right, so once that absorption phase is over, insulin levels take a nosedive. And that's the cue for our other hormone, glucagon, the release manager, to step up to the plate. This signals the start of the catabolic, or breakdown state. The new mission is to break down all those energy stores you so carefully saved. Now, in this state, your body has two absolutely non-negotiable priorities. Priority number one, above all else, is to keep a steady supply of glucose in the blood because your brain is a massive glucose hog. And priority number two is to mobilize fat from your reserves to power pretty much everything else. And you can see exactly how this plays out over time. For the first few hours, no problem. You're running on the glucose from your last meal. Then, from about hour 4 to 18, your liver starts breaking down its glycogen stores to keep that blood sugar stable. But after that, when the glycogen is gone, the body gets really clever and starts making brand new glucose from other sources. You know, this whole process isn't just one thing happening in a vacuum. It's a seriously coordinated effort. So let's meet the major players on your body's metabolic team. This is where things get really fascinating. Look at how each organ completely changes its job description depending on the state. The liver? In the fed state, it's a nutrient hub storing everything. But in the fasting state, it becomes a glucose factory. Adipose tissue goes from being an energy vault to a fuel depot. Muscle switches its fuel source. But notice the brain. Its role as the VIP consumer never changes. The entire system pivots just to keep it happy. And just how much of a VIP is the brain? Get this. It chews through about 140 grams of glucose every single day. That is a massive amount of energy for an organ that's only about 2% of your body weight. See, here's the thing. Unlike your muscles or your liver, the brain can't store its own fuel. It has basically zero glycogen reserves. It needs a constant, minute-by-minute drip feed of glucose from the blood. And that is why keeping blood glucose stable is the fasting state's absolute #1 top priority.
But what happens during a longer fast when glucose starts to get scarce? Well, this is where the brain pulls off an absolutely incredible adaptation. As you can see here, it dramatically shifts its fuel source. It goes from relying almost 100% on glucose to getting up to 70% of its energy from something called ketone bodies, which the liver makes from fat.
And why is this so important? Why does this matter so much? Because by learning to use ketone bodies, the brain drastically reduces its demand for glucose. This means the body doesn't have to break down as much of its precious muscle tissue to create that glucose. It's a brilliant survival mechanism designed to preserve your function.
Okay, so we've seen this incredible dynamic cycle in action. What's the big picture here? Why does understanding this metabolic switch actually matter to you?
All right, let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. First, your body is always in this dynamic cycle of either storing or using energy. Second, hormones like insulin and glucagon are the master switches that control the whole thing. Third, your organs work together like a perfectly coordinated team, each with a specific job. And finally, the entire system is intelligently designed with one main goal: to protect and fuel your brain no matter what. So we'll leave you with this final thought. Now that you know your body is constantly flipping this metabolic switch, how does that change the way you think about your daily energy, your diet, and your health? It's the fundamental rhythm of your biology, and it's happening inside you right now.